Welcome to the Along This Road podcast, a companion to the Along This Road Substack blog. This is episode 2, Small Roads. I wrote this in Wales in the middle of November, and I'm recording it in early January, so it's given me a little time to reflect and comment and share some of your comments. The first time I drove in Wales, I started off at London Heathrow after 24 hours of travel. So I took a nap in a service area off the motorway and later a brisk walk to wake myself up. But as the sky grew darker and the roads smaller, my eyelids became heavier. Not a good combination. Driving on the opposite side of the road requires attention. Even now, with thousands of UK and Ireland miles behind me, I still tell myself, left, at every intersection. You can't be too careful. But what no one informs you is that your spatial orientation is all off. It's hard to trust the width of the car or the lanes of the road, if there are even lanes, things we take for granted at home. We don't realize how much we do on autopilot, climbing stairs, brushing our teeth, driving, until something changes. All it takes is an uneven step, a new electric toothbrush, or driving on the other side of the road to make us realize how little we pay attention most of the time. So for me, even if I stumble or my gums bleed or I veer over lane lines, I welcome these wake-up calls. Don't we all spend far too much of our lives half-conscious about everything? What they also don't tell you is these small roads have no sidewalks, gutters, or even space. On either side are either hedgerows, tall, dense hedges, or worse, stone walls. Which is to say, that first night of driving through Wales was intense. I kept cheating into the middle of the road, but on small roads the middle means straight into oncoming traffic, so I was forced to hug the hedgerows and the stone walls. Happily, I made it to my destination with both the mirrors and myself intact. With my shoulders up around my ears, I made it. The next day, my host asked how the drive had gone. I mentioned the challenge of driving on such small roads. "What roads did you take?" they asked. When I told them, they looked at one another and grinned. "Those small roads are our main highways," they told me. 2 weeks later, after driving all over Wales and Ireland on much, much, much smaller roads, I understood their humor at my expense. 14 years later, all the small roads I've driven have provided some wonderful lessons learned. Here's a recent one. Last week in Cornwall, I turned onto a tiny country lane that was created hundreds of years ago for nothing bigger than a 2-horse wagon. A large sign read, "Weak Bridge Ahead." I thought, is that the name of the bridge, or was this fair warning that this weak bridge might randomly collapse when a vehicle such as mine is halfway across? I had no idea. As I continued driving, I began to doubt. Should I even be on this road? Was I supposed to turn around? Yet I kept on until turning around wasn't an option, because now we were in 1-horse carriage territory. When we came to the weak bridge, as announced by yet another placard, I could see that the bridge was tiny and made of very old stone. Just how weak was it? Before I had time to ponder this, I was funneled onto the very narrow bridge itself. At this point, I wasn't worried about collapse. I was worried about getting stuck. Fortunately, this past summer, I'd had another experience traversing a narrow bridge while driving a large passenger van. I panicked until my friend Sarah, who drives an even larger van all over Scotland and England for work, talked me through it. One of my passengers made a hilarious video of my string of curses as I crept across with 10 cars behind me and another queue facing me waiting their turn to cross. Now, faced with a much smaller bridge, but also a much smaller car, I reasoned that if I wasn't supposed to take this road, there would have been a barrier. I drove across. Needless to say, the bridge did not collapse. I can't say the same about my own thinking. From the time I turned onto that road, I'd been bombarded with constant backtalk. What if I've done something wrong? What if someone judges me for doing something wrong? What if something goes wrong? I wasn't worried about being hurt or the car sinking or my having to swim. I was worried about what I all too often worry about. Will I do something wrong and be judged for it? What a waste of time. I've been contemplating this all week. Small roads with sharp curves, steep hills, limited visibility, and bounded by hedgerows, stone walls, deep mud, steep drop-offs are challenging in and of themselves. They say that rental car agents in Ireland take bets on how many broken mirrors they'll get with each return. But it's oncoming traffic that's the real doozy. You think, gosh, I hope no one comes around that corner too fast. Suddenly they do, in a Sprinter van, or a lorry, or a double-decker red bus. What the actual hell? The first time this happened, I was driving a large passenger van in Wales on a tiny road with hedgerows taller than the van on either side, like I was in some medieval maze. I was creeping along when a lorry appeared right in front of me. Immediately, I perceived this as my problem. I imagined him thinking, that stupid American woman has no business being on the road. She's blocking my way. Which made me think, I have no business being on this road. What am I doing here? While this useless train of thought was barreling down the tracks of my brain, the lorry began to back up until he reached a slightly, and I do mean slightly, wider spot in the road. I tucked my mirrors in and held my breath. Do you ever do that? Or duck when going into a low garage? Like duck inside the car as though that will help. Anyway, we passed each other by, no harm, no foul, except in my own idiotic head. This week, after the whole weak bridge incident, I began thinking about self-blame. It has gone on far too long. When I was younger, I used to joke, if someone told me I'd kidnapped Lindbergh's baby or killed Jimmy Hoffa or shot the Archduke Ferdinand, I'd probably believe them. Fortunately, I've done a lot of joyful hard work on myself since then, but the dregs of those false beliefs still clamor for attention. Maybe not in the same way they used to, but why let them in at all? Time to make a change. I resolved that, immediately after telling myself left at every intersection, I would say, we're all on the same roads with the same goal, to get to our destination safely. Doing this has been a game changer. I began to notice all the tiny indentations where we can back up or pull forward to let one another pass. I appreciated how everyone smiles and waves as we squeeze past one another. I realized that I wasn't the only person mouthing, "Thank you." One day at lunch, my young Cornish server asked me how I liked the small roads. When I told her that I was learning a lot from them, she said, "Don't we all? I've had so many scrapes and dings on my car, but that's just the way it is here. And forget being in a hurry. If you start out late, like I did this morning on my way to work, you're just going to get later." Oh my gosh. Even the locals find small roads a challenge. Who knew? And here I was in my own little bubble thinking it was all me. Ridiculous. These past 2 weeks of driving, I've been shocked at the amount of time I waste worrying that I'm going to fail or not be good enough or disappoint someone or all in relation to strangers in other cars I'll never meet. I can see how this leaches into every area of my life: creativity, friendships, work, spiritual practice. Where did this come from? I could waste time blaming my mother. Doesn't everything start with our mothers? LOL. Or I could change my thinking. Every lie comes to us for life, and we give it all the life it has. If someone tells me all the reasons I can't do something, I can choose to believe them or find out for myself. But if I tell myself I can't do something, chances are I'm going to believe it. Why? Because I've already opened the door in my mind. We have to usher out the thoughts that don't serve us. How do we do that? By realizing that most of the lies come in through the door marked ego. Most people think ego means something either bad or good. Someone has a big head or somebody has a healthy ego. But to me, ego means my eye is not on the prize, the big picture. It means I've made myself the center of my own little universe, and that's never good. First off, it's boring. Second, it's not true. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. wrote, "We may have all come on different ships, but we're in the same boat now." Yes, we are. On a small road or fast one, driving a motorcycle or sports car, jalopy or rental van, truck or double-decker bus, We all want to get where we're going in one piece. On this planet, we all want to love and be loved, find joy and feel safe. But the moment we start thinking about me more than we're screwed. We're driving too fast or throwing litter out the window or not paying attention and veering into oncoming traffic. When I'm worrying about anything, no way I can show up with my whole heart. If nothing makes me happier than finding connection, commonality, communication with others, why waste my time in the weeds of ego? Next time I'm tempted to make myself the sorry center of my own imperfect universe and then wondering why I'm not enjoying the journey, I'm going to remember life is like driving on a series of small roads where every wave or smile or thank you reminds us we're on this journey together. Sometimes we have to back up, sometimes we have to pull over, sometimes we have to squeeze forward. Sometimes we find out the speed limit is faster than we can even drive. Seriously, the speed limit is sometimes 60 miles an hour on these tiny roads. What? Sometimes we have to slow down, even if it makes us late. Sometimes we have to remember that we can stop creeping along out of fear and holding up traffic and just hit the gas. But we always, all have to make sure to do our part so that everyone, even the animals, get where they need to go. Different cars, same road, together. I posted this blog and later a video of me walking on a small road, exhorting people to challenge themselves with doing something that makes them uncomfortable or even a little fearful. I got the best comments on the blog and on the video. Someone wrote, "Try driving a horse trailer if you want a real challenge." I rode horses competitively, and when I got my trailer, someone told me to get in the back, stand where the horses would stand, and have someone drive me around. Best advice ever. After that, I braked and took corners completely differently, stayed far away from other cars, and never stopped thinking about what my horses in the back were experiencing. A real lesson in empathy. And talk about a challenge. Backing up a trailer? Prior to all the fancy tech now, that was a true skill, something you could actually be proud of because it's completely counterintuitive. You have to train yourself to do the opposite of what your instincts are telling you. And if that's not a good life lesson, I don't know what is. After I posted my video on that tiny one-lane road, walking along, my friend Graham reminded me that even when it looks like one lane, you have to walk on the correct side of the road, not the one that is correct in your own country. Yep, you got to show up where you are, not where you're from. My friend Steph shared her anxiety, humor, and cursing that always happens when she's driving on small roads in the UK, and suddenly I felt not so crazy. A mom with 2 teenage sons shared her journey of not passing on her driving neuroses to her kids who are learning how to drive. When I learned, my mother, who had gone from being a super intrepid driver to someone who would never drive in the rain or up too steep hills and who hated left turns, refused to teach me. That was her solution, when it really should have been reteaching herself, like this lovely and aware woman was doing with her kids. And lastly, a reader related his experience of driving in Scotland with a friend, where he shifted for her from the passenger seat, truly sharing the journey and not judging anyone for where they were in their journey. If that's not living love, I don't know what is. So what about you? How are you willing to challenge yourself? Whatever you choose, try treating life like a series of twisty, turny, small roads, all heading to the same destination, home to love. And always remember, every road is for us all.